Thank you for visiting my presentation on video games. This is based on my personal experience. Video games and aggression were a big concern. In recollection, as a child, it was brought to my attention that video games were introduced as simulators for training the military. When the discussion of using video games as toys for children surfaced, the discussion became controversial. People were worried. Is this a method of brainwashing to be used on our children? Or will our entire existence become based on military lifestyle? Others were worried about the exposure, desensitizing the children, turning them into monsters. Some people were concerned that the simulations would become a preview of the society of the future. In Psych 120, we learned about the effect of watching aggression on and how it affected children. Bandura did an experiment on this through Bobo the Clown. Please watch.
The model pummeled the doll with the mallet, flung it in the air, kicked it repeatedly, threw it down and beat it. It was once widely believed that seeing others vent aggression would drain the viewer's aggressive drive. As you can see, exposure to aggressive modeling is hardly cathartic. Exposure to aggressive modeling increased attraction to guns, even though it was never modeled. Guns had less appeal to children who had no exposure to the aggressive modeling. The children also picked up the novel hostile language.
Then came Pong. Pong was a very easygoing game. There was no aggression. My experience as a game user began with Pong. In the early 70s, my brother brought the Pong game home as a Christmas present for his son, but no one else we knew had any such thing. We thought that the game was kind of weird, but once we were playing against an opponent, it became more fun. This is what that Pong game looked like. It was hooked up to a television, and we played through a box with controllers. And the screen resembled something like this. So it was kind of like, I guess, ping pong or tennis. It was also available in the arcades through this machine. Pong is one of the first computer games that ever was created, and it's simple like tennis. The game features 2 paddles and a ball, and the goal is to defeat your opponent by being the first one to get 10 points. A player gets a point once the opponent misses a ball, like tennis. And the game can be played with 2 human players, or 1 player can play against the computer-controlled paddle, which was great in the situation where my brother purchased it for his son because he was an only child. The game was originally developed by Alan Alcorn and released in 1972 by Atari Corporation. Then there were video games in pubs. Asteroids was a big hit. Several years later, I played some arcade games with friends at pubs. Not often, but rarely, we played Space Invaders, Asteroids, and regular arcade games. Space Invaders was definitely my favorite, and it looked like this. I also enjoyed mechanical arcade games. From 1980 to 83, I worked at Arthur Anderson in the computer department. We received an Apple PC that looked like this. It had Apple Panic, Battle Chess, and Kingdomnality. So, of course, we played it in our spare time. That's what it looked like. Kingdomnality had a short digital story. It focused on the ruler of a kingdom and what decisions the ruler would have to make to keep the community alive. What decisions he or she would make if an influx of immigrants arrived with no food or provisions, or if rats got into the storehouse and ate or destroyed portions of the food supply. Players were immersed in the story by making decisions and viewing the outcome of their decisions. Did people die because of the decision that the ruler made? Were the people happy with the king, or did they revolt? It offered a narrative story experience while players spent most of their time engrossed in the game. Repetitive actions were minimal. However, I played it repeatedly to attain the success of being a benevolent ruler. Players learned ethics, values, and how to care for a community. Atari. This was our Atari system. And this is what it looked like in the 1980s. I played it with my kids in the mid to late 80s, but we had 2 controllers. I actually may still have it in the house somewhere. My kids played Atari games. My baby girl and I played Kaboom and Pac-Man. Together, since she was only 18 months old, I sat on the floor Indian style, and she sat in my lap until she wanted to play the game on her own. Precious memories. Then there were also arcades at Chuck E. Cheese and Showbiz Pizza. Chuck E. Cheese sprang from Nolan Bushnell's Atari's video game. I kind of like Showbiz Pizza better, though. It was cute with the stage and the characters all playing instruments. When our family went to Round Table Pizza or Chuck E. Cheese or Showbiz Pizza, the children played video games. Sometimes they asked me to play with them. They played Frogger, where you tried to get that frog across the roadway without getting squished. They played Pole Position, a great car racing game, and others, like Donkey Kong. Educational video games are a great idea, in my opinion. A change in the method of teaching. The symbol of the strongest form is the triangle, also known as the Greek letter delta. In mathematics, delta measures the change. The most successful political campaigns have been run on the platform for change, probably because everyone wants something to change, something that will improve their life or the lives of their loved ones. Kids can teach kids, or they can teach adults, or vice versa, through video games, and they can complete it at workshops and publish through Game Alley. Then there are video games on the Mac. This is what our Mac looked like. We borrowed it from Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, and they allowed us to take it home and learn things on the computer, how to use it. So I helped my son with SimCity in the late 1980s and early 90s. And I love the idea of SimCity. I think it can be an excellent training for civil engineers, as well as a problem-solving game. We played another game where there was a helicopter that landed on a stationary platform, and we had to shoot down our attackers before they destroyed you on the system. But really, SimCity was just a great mind game, a great cerebral thing, and totally applicable to designing a city. Then came Nintendo. Next, our family bought a Nintendo, and we played Tetris, Mario Brothers, and my kids played other games. There were so many. Mario Brothers might be considered as early role-playing, since the digital story included a quest to save the princess. If I played with my kids on occasion, well, they really enjoyed it, and so did I. But, as most parents, we don't have a lot of time. My youngest daughter actually got tagged with the nickname of Princess Toadstool, because that's what she was called back then. It seems to me that I appreciated the active games better, like the Olympic Games with the power pad. For instance, the games with the sensor pad, we used to run and jump or hop on the Olympians in a race of hurdles. And every time the avatar tripped over the hurdle or fell, which was representative of myself, but we busted up laughing. But you still had to keep running. It was a great exercise and so much fun. We also had the piano keyboard to learn how to play piano, and I appreciated learning video games for my kids just hugely. Then came the Sega 1 and 2. Mostly I recall playing Sonic and trying to help the children get past certain game levels. I was raised that games were frivolous, and now through my children, we really use these games to, I don't know, to educate through our lives and entertain through our lives. My children played video games on the computers. They started out with Fatty Bear. I think Fatty Bear played games with them. As a parent, I was sometimes responsible to test the games. We learned that while playing cards, Fatty Bear cheats. As my kids got older and learned to drive, I didn't see video games much more except for a glance over the shoulder of somebody else. I recall glimpses of my daughter's boyfriend on the computer on a headset coordinating with people far and away in a video game. This was a strange concept to me. This is useful for virtual team training, though. Very useful. So experience on virtual games is valuable. It's a valuable skill to have in this day and age because our lives happen in virtual reality. We work, in every facet, in every industry, we have some way that we work through virtual teams. Apparently, people struggle working in virtual teams, so this is great. I actually may still have numerous CDs of the educational games for PC stored upstairs, like Dinosaurs, Reader Rabbit, and Putt Putt. I like the idea of using games to teach, reading history, theology, mythology, science, math, and engineering. I bought Reader Rabbit, Putt Putt, and Freddy the Fish, and Fatty Bear for my kids. As a parent, I help them with games sometimes. After the initial learning, I was a proponent for students to change. I would kind of like in the future, I see kids learning and then asking, what if? What if they followed Einstein through his thought process, and then instead of doing exactly what Einstein did, what if they tried something different at any point that they just felt was appropriate or interesting? Boy, I think that would be a storehouse of information. Then there's Minecraft. Minecraft is kind of like a young version for SimCity because they create virtual worlds. And my nephew did spend a couple of hours at Christmas time showing me all of the worlds that he had created with Minecraft. It was very exciting.
Vayamos a un lugar donde todo está hecho con bloques, donde el único límite es tu imaginación. Vayamos a donde queramos ir, escalando las montañas más altas, aventurándonos en las cuevas más oscuras, construyendo lo que queramos. De día, de noche, yo relampagué, porque este es el sandbox de mayor importancia en el que podrías estar. Construye un castillo majestuoso, inventa nuevas máquinas o da un paseo en la montaña rusa. Juega con tus amigos, construye tu propia comunidad. Protégete con la armadura más resistente que puedas crear para salir a enfrentar los peligros de la noche, sin que nadie te diga qué es lo que debes o no hacer, sin reglas que seguir. Esta aventura depende de ti.
Whether you speak Spanish or not, those are some pretty cool worlds. For children to create. Oh my, then there's so much propaganda that goes on in some of these video games, and I had no idea. Thanks to Jacob, I learned a lot about propaganda in video games through our discussion boards. If you think about it, we're inundated with propaganda at every topic imaginable. It's global, it's timeless, and even in video games like Call of Duty. Other nations use video games to change the thoughts and ideas of people in different countries. So does the US. There were 5 best video games that use propaganda through governments, and some of those are America's Army, Glorious Mission, The Blaze, Homefront, Soldiers, the Heroes of World War II, and Company of Heroes 2. Those are all propaganda video games from the United States, Russia, China, Lebanon, and North Korea. So this was fun, writing for theater and how it is compared to writing for video games. Oh yeah, it was interesting. I had recently seen a play that allowed us to chat with the director, actors, and screenwriter. That was a plus. It seemed that converting a book to a play and fitting it into a precise venue bears a lot of similarity to writing for video games. As mentioned in the book, Writing for Video Games Genres by Wendy Despain, it's important to have an overarching storyline that can be manipulated by the player but still succeed in presenting the story. The writer of the screenplay said that she read the story 3 times quickly and then recreated an overlying arc of that story to adapt it to a play suitable for the venue, which was a 1-room play. And if you think of it, that's kind of like one scene in a video game. There are massively multiplayer online video games, also known as MMOs. I haven't played any yet, but these games are also role-playing games, or RPGs. Some of those are World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2, Star Wars, The Old Republic, The Elder Scrolls Online, and Terra. Albion happens to be a sandbox game. A sandbox game is open play, and it is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. Wow, that's a mouthful. So what are my predictions for video games? I think it's a bright future. I think we'll see intense expansion in the realm of video games because I consider all of the wearable technology that's coming available. And I question, why couldn't you shoot hoops in your backyard and share that experience with your friend on the West Coast if you're on the East Coast? Through wearable media. Through wearable media, you could keep track of the score via sensors. Kids could enjoy friendly competition across distances. I think we're going to see video gaming come out of the house and really become interactive in our daily lives. Think about all the health apps and the general concern that video gaming is causing obesity. They're going to want to change that. I think we're going to have diversity in video gaming. How fun would it be to actually do the running, jumping, and climbing as part of the game? It could be a virtual team effort as well. Individuals in situations of confinement or with disabilities could also play with people that are on quests outside, and it would be a team effort. They would have access to information inside, and they would team up with person outside. I think it's great. Yes, the concepts are endless.
I think in this world of exponential change, we really have to step back and rethink dramatically what education is about. If you think about it, from my point of view, education can be looked at as these 3 things we expect. There's knowledge, there's skills, and there's dispositions. Knowledge today, I pull from the internet so rapidly that now I think of, for example, my cell phone as basically being a curiosity amplifier. wherever I am, I suddenly encounter something I don't quite know about, and I can pull the information from the net at the moment of need, which means now I know why I'm pulling it, now I know how to use it, now I know if it doesn't work, why, and that generates more curiosity to pull more knowledge. Okay? So there's a new way to get knowledge today, that we don't need to use a push technique in classrooms. We can use a pull technique in action-based learning. But there's something called skills. Skills you don't pull from the internet quite so easily. Skills you pick up with mentoring. And so now you look at where are the various forms of mentoring. Now you can get certain types of mentoring in terms of studio-based learning in schools. You also get mentoring in the broader ecosystem all around us. So you think about how do you kind of find the right network of mentors in order to help develop those skills. But perhaps the most important thing is dispositions. How do you develop a disposition that says, I can embrace change? A disposition that says, oh, learning can be an adventure. Oh, if I don't know something, let's immediately look it up, and so on. I feel comfortable with not knowing. I feel comfortable with the adventure of seeing change as an opportunity to say, oh, there's something new. It's like playing the right kinds of video games. I expect new things, new challenges, new quests to happen all the time. Now, dispositions can't be taught, but dispositions get cultivated. If you really want to know what schools should be about, especially universities should be about, is those are the physical spaces that cultivate dispositions. I begin to experience multiple epistemic communities coming together. I can participate in multiple communities. I begin to understand that from my point of view, what a theoretical mathematician thinks of being elegant is not what an engineer, is not what a physicist thinks of being elegant, let alone a humanist. And I can begin to understand how different professional communities kind of have their own senses of aesthetics, their own sense of elegance, their own sense of what is an explanation, and so on and so forth. So campuses will not be replaced by MOOCs. Campuses now have to reflect more on their role in terms of cultivation and a little bit more in how do they do mentoring. So I think we're going to find a major shift of emphasis to say, instead of pushing knowledge into my head, even before I think I need to know it, I want to actually create the context to be able to feel comfortable pulling, use my peers around me to question things, to reflect in practice, and then actually expect to be mentored and cultivated in terms of these fantastic places. I can't walk on MIT's campus, across the campus, without being excited. Am I learning something in terms of new knowledge? No. I'm being exposed to people who are tremendously excited for different reasons, and I get to meet them, I get to talk to them. This is what the game is as we go forward. This makes learning an adventure.
Wow. That was great.
Oh, okay.
No, you're not.
Okay.
What does well-being mean to you?
I constantly get asked all the kind of issues of technology. How can we radically improve medical care? I like to reframe that and say maybe that's the wrong question. The real question is, what are the techniques we can use to maintain well-being? And what I find so curious today is even taking the simple apps that are appearing right now on iPhone, et cetera, how do those apps actually help me lead a healthier life? There are a lot of apps that are starting to do this, but let me give you one kind of simple example. Some of you know I come out of the world of Warcraft, where in playing those games, high-end raids, et cetera, everything thrives on your ability to build a dashboard. Now in World of Warcraft, I build the dashboard for myself in order to better reflect on how I'm spending my time. In the corporate world, my manager creates my dashboard for me. It's not to help me, it's to help something else. I like to think about what are the dashboards that we want to create for ourselves that look at what we're really doing, what we're really eating, how often my blood pressure gets out of sight, all these types of things. How honest am I, myself? Do I just disguise this last piece of ginger I gobbled down and didn't bother to make a record of, and so on and so forth. And so I think that we have to look at How do we build tools that help us honestly reflect on our own behaviors and our own consumption patterns? And I think if we can do that, we already have a major step toward being a healthier generation, if not a healthier nation.